started. Michael, Sarah, you guys want to come up and have a seat? You care which? No, you guys can decide if you care. You care?
Sure.
You can use the drum and put it there. You guys can use it for water.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you see your cup too loud, you might have a beat. Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started. We have two different forums tonight. So first, we have Michael Lansing and Sarah Smothers, and then we'll have a half-hour break in between them, and then our next two candidates, who are Chip King and Stephanie Stalker. Still continuing the School District 2 candidates. There are 14. There were 15 candidates. There are 14 now. One of the candidates, her mother, has pancreatic cancer that has gone into a rapid decline. So she is withdrawing her candidacy and will be leaving to go stay with her mom indefinitely. So please keep praying for them in that process.
Do you know who it is?
Yes, her name is Rebecca, and I do not remember her last name.
Arcaris or something like that.
Oh, Rebecca Arcaris.
I would not know how to pronounce it, but yeah.
That's who it is.
Okay, Arcaris.
Arteries, yeah.
Okay. So with that, we're gonna get started. Housekeeping stuff. There are snacks and drinks and things right there on the back table. Help yourself throughout the evening. Bathrooms are just down the hallway on your left. It's very casual, it's very informal, but we still need to keep it very respectful and orderly. And we'll do as we always do. Each one will get to introduce themselves. Take 3 to 5 minutes to do that each, and then we'll open it up to questions from all of you. I will have a microphone that I'm bringing around because we are recording these so that they can be shared later. Oh, Cindy's got it. So when you ask a question, I'm going to bring you that just so that we can hear it on the recording, so that when people want to watch later, they'll know what question was asked and how it was answered. Okay? Anything I didn't cover? Anybody? I feel like we've done this for so many months, I don't even know if I'm routine or if I'm just dropping things anymore. Okay, thanks for coming, everybody. I'm going to pray and then we'll get started. Lord, we are really grateful to you for this opportunity, and thank you for giving us so many choices. And sometimes it's harder to make choices when there's multiples of them. May you give us your discernment and your wisdom so that we can know how to proceed and how to vote, to cast your vote in this election for these candidates and for all the others. We ask tonight that we would be full of your Spirit so that we can bear the fruits of that Spirit, and especially for the candidates, so that they can be succinct and direct and clear in the message that they need to deliver, and that you would help them to do that. Equip us to ask good, right, and challenging questions so that we can gain the knowledge that is needed. We pray for Rebecca and her mom and their family and ask for your comfort and your peace in the midst of something that has no comfort and peace in it. And thank you that you bring that and give that to us. We pray that they would experience that each and every day for the weeks that are ahead. And it's in Jesus' name we pray, amen. Amen.
I was just leaning over. My name is Sarah Grasky-Smothers. I grew up here in Sheridan. I'm a registered nurse. I'm a mom of 3 girls, grades 7, 5, and pre-K. They are all 3 in the Sheridan County School District number 2, and they are the reason that I am running for this office. Like I said, my husband and I both grew up here in Sheridan, and after high school we moved away. When we started having our own children, we didn't want to raise them in the schools out in California, so we decided, there's no place like Sheridan to raise our kids, and we knew that the school districts here are truly amazing, and that's why we came back here. I started attending the school board meetings during the pandemic, and I didn't agree with the decisions that were made then, but more importantly, I didn't agree with how they were made. I didn't agree with the way the school board came across, how they treated the parents. I watched parents be escorted out of meetings by police. I watched parents be silenced. I watched meetings get canceled when parents spoke up. Sorry. Across the country, we've all seen these progressive agendas being pushed in our schools, and they're ruining our education systems. Things like CRT, gender ideology, those are at the forefront of this agenda. I don't think that Sheridan has been hugely affected by these things, but it's definitely coming into Sheridan. Just last year, we had an incident where a teacher was teaching these things, and then we had the issue with who uses what bathroom up at the high school. Whatever your personal beliefs are on these topics, they don't belong in school, and I think everyone should be able to agree on that. The focus of school should be to teach our children the fundamental skills to be successful in life. I don't want to be labeled as accusing teachers of indoctrinating, but there is forces out there that are trying to push these things. The Wyoming Education Association, for instance, is one of them that is pushing these agendas. For instance, they spoke out when the superintendent of public institution fought back against when the federal government tried to implement holding back free lunches if we didn't enforce the Title IX. The WA is also offering courses for teachers such as Ending Sexual Harassment in Schools, the Power of Title IX, Wyoming Schools and Racial Justice, the LGBTQ plus Legal Rights in Education, and the Social Justice Umbrella. And that's just a few of them. You can find those on their website. I also know that teachers work endless hours after school, on the weekends, creating their what they're going to teach for the week, and grading papers, all of those things, and I know they often go unrecognized. I know that they put in those hours because they truly love our kids almost as much as we as parents love the kids, and I want that the teachers and parents to be on the same team. But also at the end of the day, I want parents to be involved in the schools and be able to know what's going on in the classroom, and I don't think that should be too much to ask. I want to see it on the school board to protect our kids. I want a board that passes policies to buffer and make sure that none of these things affect our children. I want to be on the board to help give it a backbone to take a stand on these issues. I want to help ensure that the community feels heard, and mostly I just want to be part of a solution. Thank you.
All right, I'm Michael Lansing. Actually, I gotta tell you, it's kind of fun to be up here. I haven't been in the church for a while. I was raised, and my best friend's dad was the minister here. And so we spent a lot of time here in my junior high and high school years. So it's nice to be back after 35-ish, 40 years ago. But thank you, first of all, for coming out. I am shocked on how many people are actively looking for the candidates and how vital that is. And just listen to Sarah, how vital it really is this year. There is some issues that are coming up. A little bit about myself. I'm third generation Sheridanite. Graduated from Sheridan High School. My wife graduated from Sheridan High School. We were away for 20 years. Before that, before we left, I was the Sheridan County Administrator. I was the first county administrator for Sheridan County, and got a bug for law to become a lawyer, and went off to Wyoming and got my law degree. My wife went with me, and it took 20 years for us to come back, but we're so happy to come back. One of the deciding factors to come back when we were in Casper was the school district. It's a great school district, always has been. And I think it's because of the culture. There's a culture here in Sheridan of caring for students, demographics, push education, the arts, athletics, all those things. And so we thought, what a great place to come back. Also, we have family here, which I haven't got to. I'm a father of 6. And so it was nice to have a little extra support from our parents and other family members that are here. And so that was a big issue. I have all the way, I range from a 19-year-old to a 2-year-old. And so my oldest just graduated from Sheridan High School, or Schiffer School actually last year. I have another one in high school, one in junior high. And then we homeschool our youngest, well, the youngest 2 out of 3. We have a 2-year-old, so that one's not homeschooled yet. And so for our child's education, we choose whatever we think is best for them in that year. Okay, so we've sent our kids to private, parochial, homeschool, and public school. So we've seen everything. In that time, I was on the St. Anthony School Board in Casper. I was on Holy Name School Board here. I represented as an attorney the Natrona County School District for a period of time and the Glen Rock School District, Commerce County School District number 2. So I know the other side of this, the picture. I will tell you, the Glen Rock School District listened to parents. It was great. It was a small community. They listened, and that's how they made their policy. Natrona County, not so much. And that's why I got out really quickly, is they were asking me to defend some stuff that I didn't think was going against parents and education and the parental rights as well as the students. And so I got out. When we moved up here, I was really excited about putting kids in the school, and they have gotten a good education, don't get me wrong. But as a lawyer, I was contacted multiple times for multiple situations by parents and by teachers and by staff for issues against the administration. And I don't think most people know that until you get intimately involved, and then you find out. You were mentioning somebody in a bathroom, an incident that was addressed. I can share this because I've asked all parents. I won't give names, but there was a young man at the junior high after swim practice showering in the men's restroom, and a girl walked in. She said, "I can be here. I'm trans, and I can choose my gender." And this is a young freshman boy. He freaked out. He is not clothed. And so the parents hired me, and I called the school district and got a hold of the school district attorney. And I said, "What's your policy?" And they don't have one. We're going to take it by case basis. Well, what's the case by case? And so I said, you have to build a policy. These teachers, and so I started reaching out to the swim coach and then to various other teachers. They said that's the answer we get. It's a case by case basis many times. Well, that puts a lot of pressure on the teachers. How are they supposed to know? Because once they chose the wrong situation, then they get in trouble. I've represented multiple teachers that have, if they go a little bit against the grain, all of a sudden their evaluations are not good. And it's all subjective, it's not objective. And when they hire me and we get going, the school district will back off. But teachers and staff and parents shouldn't have to hire an attorney. They shouldn't spend their hard-earned money to have protection against the district. And so that's a long answer of why I'm running. I'm running because I don't think people should have to spend money to hire me. I think we need to make a change from within and get that done. That's why I'm running for school board, and I know more information will come out in the questions. So, was that 3 to 5 minutes?
You did
That's
it
good.
on the dot. I need a sign or something just so I can. Okay, is it questions? Anybody first?
Sure, why
Okay. It's hard to be first.
not? I can handle it. You don't have to.
Not at all. Good evening, guys. Okay, so last Monday, a week ago tomorrow night, we spent 2 hours and 20 minutes listening to the school board in District 2, pat each other on the back, principals from 6 or 5 of the elementary school, no, it must be 6 of the elementary schools, and talking about PBIS. Now, they told us that wasn't here in the district, and we were told by Gordon that CRT, PBIS, SEL, SEE, which is SEL with an E. What are your thoughts? Because there was only about 6 minutes that were left for parents at the very end of this very arduous school board meeting Monday night, to the point that their attorney was falling asleep and one of the principals was dozing off. What are your thoughts on PBIS, that they're pushing hard the first 15 minutes of school at the junior high? And Mike, you were correct, Bronc base camp. And I don't know if they're doing it in the elementary or the high school, but they're forced for 15 minutes with this PBIS, as well as throughout the day and all the rest of the classes. So this is for both of you.
Okay, so I have a kid in the elementary school and I have one in junior high as well. And the way they are doing PBIS are the same but different. The way the elementary schools, my daughter's elementary school is doing it, is they are meeting every Friday, and it's a group of, they're assigned to a group, and it's kids from every grade, and they meet and they kind of do activities, and it's more of like a team building exercise, and it's kind of, so they get to know each other, and the older kids can be a role model for the little kids. I think in the elementary age, it's appropriate. I think it's nice for older kids to be able to model good behavior to the little kids. On the surface, I think it's a good idea if you start digging into the roots of PBIS and that sort of thing. That's a whole different story. The way the junior high is doing it is the kids are grouped into what's called base camp, and they meet for 10 or 15 minutes every morning. They're in the same group, and it's 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in this group. And they have to talk about their feelings. They have to rate their feeling on a 1 to 10 scale, and then they get asked a question of the day, like, would you rather go on a safari or whale watching? Or would you rather move things with your mind or be able to fly? Some silly question like that. I don't see the purpose of that base camp. I don't really see the value. I was kind of waiting to see if it was going to progress into something, if that was kind of an icebreaker for the first few weeks of the school year, and then if it was going to change. According to my daughter and some of the other students that I've talked to, that's just kind of the way it's been. My friend's son had a girl in his base camp that her feeling of the day was, wow, I'm just really stressed. And his response was, you're stressed? Well, what can we do to help you? And he just was kind of poo-pooed by the teacher and by the girl, nothing, you can't do anything to help me. And to me, what's gonna happen if somebody speaks up and says, wow, I'm really depressed today, I feel like harming myself or something. The teachers they're not counselors, they're not psychiatrists, they're not, I don't know that they're fully equipped to be able to handle these sorts of things. I also think that it's really hard to get a bunch of junior high students who don't know each other to really talk about emotions. I feel it's kind of a futile exercise in what they're trying to accomplish. Again, on the surface, how they explain what they're trying to do, they're trying to have, the 8th graders maybe teach the 6th graders here's a tip that I learned how to keep my Chromebook charged every night or something like that, but I don't think a lot of that is actually happening, so I think it's a little bit futile.
It's not safe for me to just say ditto, but I agree 100%. I have my son, my 8th grade son in Bronx Mini Camp, and when I first heard about it, I went to the parent teacher, the open house they had at the very beginning. I asked the teacher, and it was very interesting. They had special training at the very beginning of this summer, or whatever, the end of the summer. But the training was just on how to run the class. These aren't trained therapists. They're not trained psych, and they don't want to be. The teachers want to teach. And the teachers I've talked to behind the scenes at the junior high, they're doing it, and some of them feel really pressured to kind of accept it. They want their job. They have mortgage payments to make, okay? And so the pressure is going to have to come from somewhere else. Because when I talk to him, I ask my son, so what do you do? And he says, every day, how do you feel? I feel 6 and I'm bored. That's his feeling, every day. So it's a joke, okay, for him. And for some kids it may be serious, but here's the situation. We were all in junior high at one time, and go back. If you're a 6th grade girl and you have a bunch of 8th grade boys with you, are you gonna really tell them how you feel? No. And so what are we teaching our kids? We're teaching them how to lie. Why do we want to do that? Why do we want to teach our kids to lie? Okay, if they have a real issue, if they are, they'll go talk to somebody. I mean, we do have counselors in the school, okay, to address it. So that's all I wanted to add was, I believe I am checking out right now. I think I'll just opt him out. He gets 10 more minutes in the morning. They can't force him, it's not an educational requirement, so we can opt him out. He's asked me, no, Dad, I don't want to be the different kid, but I'm trying to say, well, what happens if I get a group of them? What happens if we get 40, 50 kids to opt out? They can't do anything about it, okay? And I think it might make the point. I think the teachers, like I said, when you get them behind the scenes, they admit that they don't like it. It's an introduction of SEL or whatever we want to call it. They're going to bring in, you read the literature on SEL, we're not therapists. And I did bring up, my wife said the only good thing to come out of it, and I do agree, like if they do at the elementary school, some of these kids don't know how to do anything with this to their phone, okay? There's no phone in there. They're forced to actually look at somebody else in the eye and say, hi, I'm Aaron, and this is who I am, okay? At least they're forced to make eye contact and speak to somebody. So there is a positive to that, but that's about it that I can see. So, and I'll give kudos to my wife for pointing out a positive.
Anybody else ready?
First off, thank you. It's really good for us to see the candidates running, so awesome. Thanks, guys. Questions to both of you. Our little grandson, who's 10 years old, he's not in the school district, but he's getting bullied on the cell phone, social media. And by George, I have to bite my tongue because I'm a stepmom, but I'm really frustrated with these youngsters having cell phones. And if it were up to me, I would say, leave your doggone phones at home. What's your feelings on that?
I was almost wondering if I should make that one of my platforms, because you're not the first person to address that with me. And you want to talk about fight back, kick back, we would have it, but that's okay. We're not supposed to not be challenged in the way we handle this. As a parent of teenagers all the way down to 2-year-old, our kids don't get a phone until they are in high school at all. Okay, so I think we start our kids off way too early with phones, but that's my personal opinion. That has nothing to do with school policy. I do believe there is no reason why you can't say you can bring your phone, and it goes to a certain place in school, and I would take that all the way to the high school. Okay, and if you need it, I know we even get a lot of kickback. I've talked to a lot of parents, oh, but what happens if I have to tell them they have a dentist appointment. Well, what did they do when we were kids?
Yeah.
You said, hey, there's a school, every room has a phone, just buzz them, or there's ways you can send an email saying, hey, your parents are coming in 15 minutes to pick Johnny up, have him at the front door. It's all an excuse, okay? We don't need them in there, okay? I've heard parents say, well, what about school safety? You know, what happens if there's a shooting? And guess what? The teachers have a phone, okay? There is a way of doing it, okay? It is a distraction. And the parents that came and talked to me were for that exact reason. The minute they get done, there's bullying being done. I can't do anything about cyberbullying. I wish I could. But you're just giving them more and more opportunity. You know, let them focus. Maybe it'd be really great to have 6 hours of unplugged. They already have their Chromebook all the time. They're staring at blue light. Take that away and let them be kids and focus on education and maybe talking to each other. So that's my answer.
Can I say ditto? I think the schools, I know the junior high, and I can't speak to the high school, does tell the kids to keep their phones in their backpacks. And if they get caught with them, they get taken away, which I completely agree with. And I think that the teachers should feel empowered that if they are found with their phones in the classrooms, they're mine for the day, and parents should have to come and take them or be the ones to get them back. I don't think phones really belong in the schools. Again, I think we give our kids phones at too young of an age. I think that cyberbullying is such a terrible thing anyway. I mean, bullying in general, but cyberbullying is just such a horrible trend that's taking place. But cell phones don't belong in schools at all. If they have to have them, keep them turned off in your backpack or they're the schools.
Are you both willing to make that a policy?
I believe it is a policy, but make sure it's enforced more, absolutely.
I'd be willing to go to a policy all the way through high school.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Next.
This one's for both of you also, along the bullying subject. There is a serious problem here, no matter how much the administration wants to deny it. Bullying very familiar with it in the junior high. How would you work to address that problem in the schools? And it's not always just from students to students. Even the teachers have felt it from the administration, students have felt it from the teachers as well.
well, if students are feeling it from teachers and people are feeling it from administration, it's a cultural thing that needs to be started with the administration stepping up and changing that culture. I think then that trickles down to the teachers modeling that behavior, and then hopefully, then the students picking up on that behavior. Also, I think the students or the teachers need to feel empowered to discipline when they catch a student bullying, they need to feel empowered to discipline. I think that sometimes is an issue. Hence why they try to implement the PBIS. They claim that kids don't know the expectations. I think kids know that they're not supposed to be bullying. I know bullying's been around since the beginning of time, doesn't make it right. Kids know it's not right. Kids know that there should be consequences to their actions. And I think we just need to be really rigorous and consistent with that when kids are caught. I think consistency is the key. And again, changing the culture.
You kind of gave a two-part question there. We could look at the administration. Let's just look at a school board meeting or something of that nature. It should start with the adults. We should model. And one of the words that came out, it didn't come out initially when I decided to run for candidate, but civility. I mean, I don't care how much you disagree with somebody, you could be civil in your response and in your presentation and questioning and answering. That is just something that is missing. We both have presented at school meetings. I know there's other people here that have. And sometimes it's not just their words, it's their actions, it's the rolling of the eyes, it's the turning of the chair, it's those type of things. And that needs to change. So yes, first of all, as adults, it'd be really nice if we would model it. Unfortunately, you watch the news, I don't care which side of it, Fox News or CNN or anything else, they just yell at each other. So it's just out there, okay? They just, it's a world that if you disagree with somebody, you can just yell and it's acceptable. So I would love that to change, Bullying's went back all the way, we got Cain and Abel, right? It goes back a long way. And that didn't end up very good. And so, it is a cultural thing, it's been around, but I agree, there is policies out there. We hear from our superintendent, there is a zero bullying policy. Okay, I hear it, and I think it's a policy. Now, is it enforced? No. I have a child, and I don't mind saying this, I have a kid that was up at the high school last year, was miserable. He now has went out to Schiffer. And Schiffer is a safe place, it's a much safer place. They teach how to love on each other and how to treat each other. And he's so much happier. He's actually sitting at the dinner table talking. So a change can make a big difference, but the Schiffer's only so big. Can only take 120 students and their wait list is long. Why can't they implement that same thing at the high school? I don't know. But I would like to really dive into that because it is, if you're being bullied, you're not learning. I can guarantee you that.
Hi, thank you both for being here tonight. I have a question for you. This is kind of a quick one, but it sets a paradigm on how you view yourself in the role. And the question is, do you see yourself primarily as a representative of the community or as a representative of the school system?
Well, I think that's an easy one. It's representative of the community. When you are voted into elected office, you are a representative of your constituents, all of them, whether they voted for you or not even. So that's the easy answer. And are you there, we both sat through a training, and I think we've talked about this at other events, when the school board association puts on a thing, it says we must be unified with the superintendent at all times. We must present a unified front. It's one of their 8 things that they say that we have to do. That one I almost threw up in my mouth when I heard that. Seriously, it was that. That's not the purpose. Our country was founded on vigorous debate, civil but vigorous debate, and the due process that it's lacking. You should be able to ask the superintendent hard questions. You should be able to ask the public health official tough questions. You should be able to ask a principal, a teacher, myself. You should be able to ask me tough questions. And if and open up that debate so we get to the right decision. So in that way, yes, it's the community. Sorry.
The community, of course. Anytime you're elected, like he said, you should represent the constituents, and that is the definition of the school board. You are a representation of the community. So there you have that.
I'm gonna ask one thing then. Okay. There's a lot of different avenues that we get money and funding for our education system in the state. And you had mentioned the federal push that was tied to federal dollars for lunches. What do you see as a possibility or a priority? You can take this however you want, but how could we address locally being stronger financially so that we can be independent of some of those things if needed or as needed?
I think locally, I know we have a lot of philanthropy that happens in the community. We could try to tap into some more of that. Grants are always a good thing. I know the school board seems to be, we could look at our investments and try to do some smarter investments. A chunk of the funding does come from federal, which it would be nice to not be so reliant on that way we're not beholden to a lot of the things that the federal government tries to push. I think that, boy, that is a tough one. I would just have to look at what options are out there. I don't honestly know off the top of my head what else other than those issues are out there, but definitely things to look at.
Well, one of the things, and it really does upset me, and this would go, as a school board member, I think we need to work with the superintendent of public instruction down in Cheyenne as well as the legislature, because there is ways of fighting, and we are seeing fighting. There's fighting at the student loan, repayment, which I didn't get my student loans repaid by the government. And so, fighting back. There's some constitutional issues, and I don't want to go into a detail about it, but there's constitutional issues of some of these strings attached to federal lunch programs, to the COVID money that was received. First of all, we could have just said no, okay? But, there are places that did say no. There's some colleges out there that have said no to, we're not gonna take federal student aid, and there's not many of them. Wyoming Catholic College is one of them, Hillsdale College, no one, anyway. There's ways of addressing it, and I think we need to challenge with our state some of these funds, okay? We are lucky, and we are in a mineral-rich state with a limited population. Now, it is expensive to, have a school in Shoshone, Wyoming, because you still have to have the brick and mortar and teachers and superintendents. But I believe there is ways of looking at our budget. We brag, and it is true, it's $14,000 a student here. It's one of the lower in the state, and we have some of the best results. But I also sat in two private schools, St. Anthony's and Holy Name, where we spend $6,000 a student. Well, there is room, okay? There's room to really look at that budget and make the hard decisions they talk about. What those hard decisions is, I don't know. But you mentioned also local people, the Booster Club is an example. The Booster Club raises, just look at the banners at a football game of all the people that donate. The Booster Club has lots of money. They almost can support athletics. And so maybe there's a way of allowing that and putting money somewhere else. I'm not advocating for cutting that, but I do know when they brought the state marching band in, the district paid half of the amount for the uniforms. They had to raise the other 50%. I don't think all the other athletic programs had to raise the money to pay for 50% of their equipment, okay? But the band did it. I put together a group, I challenged banks and law offices and other places around town to raise money, and we raised it so that they could have band uniforms, okay? And so there is ways of going out to the locals and getting that sponsored. But we all are tax-paying citizens too. We shouldn't have to pay too much more. But I believe there is a way of looking at some of those federal ties that it does scare me. This administration really scares me. I know this is a nonpartisan thing, but it does scare me of some of the ways that you can always attach money and get a lot of people to do really stupid things.
I've been to 4 or 5 of the school board meetings this last year, and I have been shocked at the amount or the lack of dialogue. There's been no dissent. I haven't heard one dissent. The last school board meeting, they were proposing a major policy change with regard to hiring. There was not one word spoken. Not one. Where do you believe that dialogue is taking place, or if it's not taking place, what would you do in a case like this? I do know that policies are set, sometimes by state statute, but some of the law is not settled law. And so I want a representative who will push back and at least let the community hear what the school board individual members stand on some major decisions.
If you want to be my campaign manager, we might get along very well. I think that was the biggest reason I ran. And it was at a moment when I would go to the meetings, and as I said in my introduction, I was the county administrator. And people probably heard this example before, but when you go to a county positional, say on a zoning change, okay? They have a meeting and they read what's changes and they get a report from the administration, right? And then they go, all those in favor, all those want to speak in favor, and they listen, and all those opposed. And then they open up dialogue. Usually each commissioner will talk about it, and they'll say why they're voting for it. Well, I'm gonna vote in favor of changing it from agriculture to rural development because of this. And what that does is it builds public trust.
Mm-hmm.
You wanna talk about civility, if the public trusts us because we explain it, it will go there. Will I be somebody there? Yes, I may be one of, hopefully there's 4 new people up there, but that can push for this. Because it did make me sick when they were voting on things so important. I know what you're talking about, and we added a bunch of different classes to the employment issue. And I did look at the legalities of that. It is part of, Title VII, they added those in case laws, but at least it should have been discussed and questioned, saying, do we have to add this? And then the attorney for the school district could have explained why they did it. But there was not even that. Where does it happen? Work sessions or emails? And most of the time it's just emails sent out saying, hey, this is what we need to say, and not a lot of kickback. Could you get a hold of those? Unless it's a personnel issue, it's not covered under FOIA, you could get every one of those. I've sued the school district enough on different other topics that it's amazing what you used to find those emails. But yeah, I'll push back 100%. I can't change, if I'm not the president, change the policy of how it is. But before we vote, I can open up for questioning. I can question my fellow board members. I can question each one of them, and it might take, these meetings might be quite long to begin with, but I think we'll get in a routine, and that's my hope.
I hope you're not making those meetings long on a football night. As has been mentioned.
You can record it.
I completely agree. I think I've heard one dissent in the meetings that I have gone to. I think that, like he said, they take place via email, they take place in a work session, but an explanation as to, hey, we're changing this policy because of this statute that just got passed, and so we have to match that. Some explanation so the people sitting in the room or listening to the meeting at home can understand, oh, well, that's why, that makes sense. A little, being proactive in heading off some questions from the community would be nice. I also think that, like was mentioned earlier, the school board does not have to agree 100% every time. So a little, discussion and a couple of people disagreeing would be nice to see. People asking the questions as to why do we have to do this would be very nice to see. I think that seeing how people vote would really help come next election time. You could keep track of, hey, this person voted for these, just like we do with our other elected officials. These people voted for these things to pass, these people were against it. Would be really nice to have some sort of a record to look back on for the next go round.
what is Wyoming's Open Meetings Act? Do you have one? I'm from Texas and just moved here, so, and would there be a violation if you're having dialogue outside of a public meeting? Isn't that a violation?
I know we have one, but I'm gonna let you answer that.
Yeah, no, yes, there is a Wyoming's Meeting Act, and you, if two or more elected officials are together, they can go have lunch, as long as they're not talking about business. If they're trying to come toward any resolution of any issue, that's in violation, and it's called a meeting, and they must give public notice. So, you know, we'll both be on the board, could we meet for lunch and just talk about how our families are doing? Yeah, no problem. But if we're getting together to talk about, hey, the issue's coming up next week on the agenda, how are you gonna? No, you can't do that. That's a violation of the Open Meetings Act, okay?
So just two people?
Just, yeah, two or more. So, yep. And so that is issue one. And when I was county administrator, I became very aware of that because we used to go meet at the Pony. It was actually part of litigation when we did, there was a meeting, we were having lunch, and we were accused of making the whole decision of how to consolidate the county and city fire departments at over a 30-minute lunch. So I'm very aware of it. And the second issue with that is the only thing that is not open for people to discuss in executive session is personnel issues, litigation, and if you're talking about the sale of real estate where you're talking about the price. All those make sense. Other than that, no. Those need to be in open discussion. So. Did that answer? And welcome from Texas.
I have a question. Okay, we have time for one more. I'm gonna let Sharon, since she hasn't asked, go ahead.
We'll be really quick with our answers.
Okay.
I would like to know what policies you would back to keep girls' sports female, biological female, their locker rooms, their own, and keep all that riffraff from going on in the school. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you're talking about. There's kind of two issues there, but the big one is, I mean, I do feel horrible. You know, there's a lot of, I'm gonna call them old school feminists that are really upset. They push forever to have equality in the sporting world, right? And now that's been taken away. It's just getting reversed. It's ridiculous, okay? If I could do something from a school policy, locally, I would do it. It also needs to happen at the state. This is a conversation to have with the legislature and the governor, okay? We can pass policy. There are states that are passing it, but we need to do it here. We can take care of some stuff with the bathroom policies, locker room policies, those things, you know. Montana, by the way, it's funny because Montana used to almost consider more liberal, but it's actually kind of going in the conservative manner. They passed a law, they're passing a law that says the sex on your birth certificate is your sex, period, okay? What that opens the door for is other policies that you can make saying, hey, this bathroom is for what's on your birth certificate. It's opening the door to change other policies, and I hope we're heading in the same direction.
I would 100% support any policy that we would be able to come up with as a school board to keep the bathrooms separate, or if I'm gonna play devil's advocate, come up with a single stall bathroom for people who so choose to use that one, as long as there weren't boys and girls in the same bathroom or locker room. I think we should all work with our legislature to try to pass a bill statewide to create safety for the sports and just keep going after that topic wherever we can, whenever we can, just for the protection of all of our kids.
Okay, we're gonna try to get in one more.
Wanna do one more?
Make it a short one.
I've got about 6 of them here.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
Okay, you guys kind of touched on it already. That night, last Monday night, there was 12 policies that the board rubber stamped. And clearly they're having lunch or having meetings outside of public view and making decisions. We know that just by pushing the public comments to the end of the meeting. And they did that at a private study, as they called it, a study session. Yet they do their executive session directly after the general meeting. That being said, it looks like Stoltz, the superintendent, has a great deal of power. And he's a subordinate to the Board of Trustees. Once elected, what do you plan to do to pull back, remove some of that power from Stoltz, because he's clearly abusing it, and do right by it and use it in council and making sure that council is not rubber stamping?
Well, the hierarchy of the way that goes is the superintendent reports to the board, but then the superintendent is the one who is supposed to carry out and the policies and make sure that the schools are running the way that they should. I think that the school board currently has ways of grading the superintendent, and I believe they do that on a quarterly basis. So maybe look at the way that that is done. Maybe that needs to be done more often. I don't know, I'm not sure of what categories they look at when they look at that. Boy, that's a tough question. I'm not sure I completely understood what you were talking about when you were referring to abusing his power exactly. I just want to make sure.
One example?
Yes.
So in the policy, it says only the superintendent is allowed to make policy as he or she sees fit when it comes to sexual harassment. And that is both for students as well as personnel. Yet, I do know of an instance where that was brought to his attention and nothing occurred with it. In fact, they said they will deal with it on a case-by-case basis, and the case-by-case was swept under the rug. So there's a good example that may help.
Yeah, I don't think that the superintendent should be making those types of policies in a silo at all. I think that needs, especially in an instance of sexual harassment, probably legal counsel, counsel with the human resources department. That is a slippery slope to go down, and there's that case by case verbiage again. That's a slippery slope to go down, and that should not be being done by one person. That needs to be a team of people looking at that, making sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, because that is one that you don't want to get wrong.
First of all, to hold somebody accountable, and it's not just because I went to law school, we can all learn. I know you've learned a lot about the law recently and what can and cannot be done. You pull that out. You know, when they say, hey, we're gonna have a work session, we're gonna talk about this, my first question is, did you publicize it? Was the public aware? Every work session has to be in public knowledge, okay? Because you're talking about issues that you're gonna vote on. And so you ask, was this published? Was notice provided? If it wasn't, say, we can't meet. Okay, that's what we have to do. And as a board member, I can say that. Okay, that's what, you hold them accountable. I think most of them said, it's not that big a deal, go on. Okay, is there ill intent? I don't know. Is it not knowledgeable? Maybe. Is it being told that what is right and wrong, and maybe that's not the proper information provided? Yes. There is a lot of power given to the superintendent, and that's a lot of power that shouldn't be given up, okay? Yes, you're correct, the superintendent does work for the board, okay? And I've always wondered if there's a file on each board member or something, because it doesn't seem like they want to hold that accountability, okay? And so I'm trying to be very good at what pictures can be taken of me. Anyway, I think I've watched too many movies, but, you know, it's a true statement. They need to be held accountable, okay? And I'm not saying ridiculed in the open public all the time, but challenged, okay? You know, we came out of COVID where they just said, hey, superintendent, we're gonna just give all power to you to decide when the masks come off, when the vaccine mandate disappears. We just gave the power up. They just said, you know, you report to us every 2 weeks, but you get to decide. That's too much power to one person. It should have been, you come to report to us. We'll make the decision every time. Okay, so I agree, way too much power has been given away. And yes, there was a sexual harassment case 3 years ago that I cannot believe. Many things happened, I know, without board knowledge. So I can just leave it at that, and that's too unfortunate.
Thank you.
We have 3 minutes and I'm gonna ask the last question.
You already asked 4.
I asked one. Nice, right? And I know mine's short. I firmly believe that a person's belief system, their faith, shapes some of their opinions, their decisions, and it ought to. That's part of why we make those choices. Can you both speak to if you have a belief or a faith system of any kind and briefly explain that?
Yeah, one thing that bothers me so much is, you know, we have a lot of politicians, and I hate to say it, I'm Catholic, that are Catholic also in DC. You sure wouldn't know if you read any of their policies or anything of that nature, okay? And they say, well, that's separate, you know, it's separation of church and state. That's not separation of church and state, okay? I am a Christian Catholic, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I'll never stop being that, okay? Will it shape some of my decisions? Yes, it should. I'm a godly man, okay? So yes, you know, like I said, I went to youth group here. God has been a huge part of my life. You know, the other board I'm on right now that I spend most of my passion with is I'm on Legacy Pregnancy Center. The pro-life movement is my #1 movement. And so I will incorporate that. Now, does that always change my decisions? I do also follow the statutes, and I also follow the laws. So sometimes those run into each other, and that's our individual basis. But yes, faith is #1 for me.
I also am a practicing Christian. I went to Catholic school, kindergarten through 8th grade here at Holy Name. Currently, I attend Summit Nazarene. I help teach Sunday school, taught this morning. I think my faith is a huge part of why I want to run for this. I want to bring good values back. I think that we've lost them in our community, and I want them back. I want to teach our kids that we stand up for what we believe in, and we do it in a godly way. And God has intended things to be a certain way, and that's the way they should be, and that's what we should fight for.
It's exactly 6:30. Woohoo! So we're gonna end this formal part. We have a few minutes if you guys wanted to, like Sharon had another little question, she can ask you guys directly. If anybody wants to listen in, they're welcome to do that. But and if you have something that you wanted to ask them directly, please feel free, get some refreshments. And then at 7 o'clock, we'll reconvene for the other 2 candidates. Thank you both for coming. Thank you.